Hey, good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. Today we have with us Eve. Eve, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eve, owner of Creatively Ed. We are an instructional design company for the homeschool community. I'm also a homeschool mom with two teenagers.
Nice. How long have you been homeschooling?
I've been homeschooling since 2019. Since
Okay.
2019.
Okay. So were they preteens then, or were they younger?
Yes,
How? Oh,
my
okay.
son, once he graduated from elementary school, and he's really, the story behind me starting homeschool, his experience throughout elementary school. So once he completed elementary school, I knew the school system wasn't going to work for him, and took him out and began to homeschool. School, yep. Then my daughter, she really liked what she was seeing. She's really a learning style that's better fit for schools, but she was able also to excel in the homeschool. So just before COVID
Nice.
hit that same year, 2020, my daughter started like in January, then COVID kind of came in around March. So she started homeschool then.
Okay. Okay. And you say basically because your son was he having discipline issues or with the academic?
All the things that a child can get typecast with in the
Mm,
school system, from behavior issue to a learning issue. And at the time, I was, I'll go back and tell you a little of my story of how I, started homeschool. At the time, I was working. They were young. We had just moved to this area I live in Maryland. And, I was under a lot of stress. My son, was really not acclimating well to the new elementary school. This was around second grade. And third grade, things got even worse. They began to form an IEP. Actually, I really was instrumental in them forming an IEP group because the alternative was that he was going to consistently get suspended or expelled, and without an IEP. So I was like, well, let's bring together the professionals and let's talk about it. Um, None of their approaches worked. It actually got worse. At the tail end of his elementary school experience, they sent him to an alternative school. I don't know if you know much about those alternative schools, but they are really set up, sometimes as a pipeline to prison, as just setting the students up, in my view, for failure. And I also fell seriously ill at that time. And I tried as much as I could to be there, to be a support, to keep my eyes on the situation. But at some point, I became hospitalized. Then my son just kind of lost it. He ended up in a facility. It was during my recovery that I realized that it it's the curriculum. I knew this because I'm an instructional designer. I build curriculums. That's what I've been doing for my profession. But I had not connected the dots until I really had time to rest and to think about it. And I was like, I know my son better than anyone else. He doesn't have a learning issue. It's the way that he learns is not being met by the school system. Um, because he's a very bright child, and now he's extremely bright. It's like a light bulb came on for me, which is one of the reasons why a light bulb is my logo. But it's like a light bulb came on for me, and I was like, it's the curriculum behind everything that's biased, that's teaching one approach to learning, and it really only reaches a fraction of students. And then the rest of the students are there to kind of, figure it out, or fall into having an IEP, or fall into a label like, a behavior issue, a discipline issue, because they're not getting what they need from that curriculum, from that approach. That's why learning styles is one of the primary things in the live approach that I designed. Learning style is extremely important to really connecting education with your child. So you know, I thought of all of that. I knew that the homeschool community was growing at that time, because also we had a lot of major school shootings. We continue to have major school shootings. And
Really.
also in the African American community, people are beginning to see that, the school system is not really working for us. So, as an instructional designer, I decided to use that expertise for the homeschool community and start an instructional design company. I had joined so many different homeschool groups on social media, different social media platforms. And one thing that I noticed was a gap is that the homeschool community does not have an instructional design resource. And all other sectors of education have an instructional design resource. The school systems use it, large instructional design companies like Harcourt, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, Scholastic. Those instructional design companies, the instructional designers who make those curriculums, those curricula are, people that you'll never see. You'll never get to know. They'll never get to know your child. They never walked into the school. They don't know what the environment is. They just work behind a desk and build out the curriculum. So in that respect, it's very standard. It doesn't reach an individual, it reaches a large mass of people. I always liken it to like cafeteria food. You can't put a lot of seasoning in it because you're feeding a large mass of people. You don't know who's allergic to what. So without that, education becomes very bland and doesn't connect to the majority of the students. And I saw in those homeschool groups that the homeschool community, parents are searching for learning material, swapping learning material out, asking questions, trying so many different things. I was like, this community needs an instructional design resource. Other education, even private schools go to a Becca and other, curriculum resources, but the homeschool community is left to fend for themselves. And so I built Creatively Ed so that the homeschool community can have its own instructional design resource. But in the spirit of how we homeschool, and each family is different, each approach is different, Creatively Ed does not design the curriculum first. We meet with the family first, and we get to know the family. We do a learning style assessment. We do an interest assessment for the child. We understand the family's values and the environment, their experiences, and that's my live approach. And we incorporate all of that into our curriculum that we build for each and every child. It's the long road to building curriculums. Most instructional design companies want to build one curriculum to, service the mass group of people. So it's very difficult to build a curriculum for each and every person. But honestly, that's how it should be. That's how it should be, because
So,
we all learn differently. There is no one curriculum that's going to fit everyone.
no, not at all. And so instructional design, you are piecing together like lessons and activities. How is this looking?
Yes. Over the years, I've built a wealth of resources, people who, and, also people like me who provide, different services that would work for the homeschool community. So, a lot of people think, let me back it up and talk about instructional design, because a lot of people think that the teacher creates the lesson. And the teachers do not create the lesson, and teachers will admit that they do not create the lesson. They create the lesson plan for the day, which is pulled from the overall curriculum. That overall curriculum drives what the teacher will teach, what her subject matter is day to day, or his subject matter day to day. And so they pull from that curriculum and then they make a daily lesson plan. As an instructional designer, we're like the silent, group in the education field. We built the curriculum. We built the curriculum which drives the education in the classroom, which drives the education in the workforce. It's like if you've ever had a job where you got training on, instructional designers, built that training. So everything that someone is learning, down to, the presentation, to the quizzes, the assessments, everything is built by the instructional designer. So when we're learning to become instructional designers, we learn different approaches to teaching and learning. So there are more than just one way to approach a learner, but the school system uses one. It's very linear. Um, and teachers are taught to teach in one style. Really good teachers, I am a former teacher, really good teachers will span out from that and add on to their, in their classroom. But the problem is that they have so many students that they still can't connect to everyone. We know that classrooms are overpopulated. So, you know, a, and they may have sometimes an assistant who will pull a small group aside. But even then, that small group is not getting the individual needs met. So the instructional designer considers all of that, brings it into the curriculum as it's being built. The reason behind the live approach is, one, because it's the most customized approach to learning. There's nothing else out there, and I've been studying the market for years now, that's that customized and zeroed in on the specific learner. But also because learning is natural and organic and unique to the individual. It's a natural human experience that we're going to have. If you think about it, from the time that we're born, we grow up, there are things that we naturally begin to do. All living things, even a flower learns to turn its face to the sun, if it's set outside, or to find the ray of sun. So everything will naturally learn. So we take those natural aspects and, filter that into the curriculum as well. So that's the story behind, you know, why I created Creatively Ed, and how Creatively Ed services homeschool families. But we also service co-ops, micro schools. I helped one teacher especially at that time, right after COVID, who left the school system and created her own learning pod with a full curriculum for that. So we can adjust, create partial curriculums, supplemental curriculums, anything that the family really wants or needs to help their child.
Okay, nice. And how long are these curriculums? How long do they last the family?
Well, and that's a great question. Um, I'm also a single mom, and so I have to give you the backstory to it. I'm also a single mom, and for a lot of times, and I see in the homeschool community, people are spending a lot of money. I wanted to make something more affordable. So I made the course We All Learn Differently. That course is very, very affordable. Um, and in that course, the parent will get the formula to be empowered. It's like a DIY course. It teaches the parent how to do it themselves. And I did this because I knew that I couldn't afford to spend thousands of dollars on a curriculum and then do it again next year. And then I have two children in the household and then do it again the year after that for each child. I couldn't afford that. I wanted to empower homeschool families, especially like myself, who are working on a budget, to know how to do this and to be able to do it year after year off of the same formula. So the curriculum for that, if you were to purchase We All Learn Differently, you would get the formula to be able to do this year after year, and it would eliminate the need to keep purchasing more in the homeschool community. So that would last for as long as your child is in school. You could start from elementary school up to high school and use that formula year after year and adjust the curriculum to your child's needs. In terms of the homeschool co-ops, micro schools, learning pods, those curriculums are generally for a year because um, we work like in advance. You have to order in advance because it's still not created until we've met the organization. We understand what their needs are. We design on a quarterly basis. So quarter one, we design and provide the curriculum. Then if there's anything that changed or if you want anything adjusted, we can adjust for quarter two. So while quarter one is in operation, quarter two is being designed. While quarter two is in operation, quarter three is being designed. And that's if they request a full year curriculum. But they can also still request, in terms of co-ops, learning pods, micro schools, they can still request a partial, like a supplemental curriculum or just activities. We do the research for field trips and activities. We study the environment. Let's say, for example, a co-op, where it's located, what type of students they have, what the main body of interest are, and then we find the best field trips to fit that particular co-op. So they may just purchase a list of or a field trip activity list. So it's up to the individual. It all starts with an assessment we need to meet first. And that's something that we never got in the school system. You never got to meet whoever designed from Harcourt, Pearson, McGraw-Hill. You never got to meet them. They never got to meet you. And that's why those lessons don't work for everyone. They don't know who you are or what you're about or what your interests are or values.
Yes, yes. And okay, so this is a virtual service. So y'all are meeting virtually.
Yes. And everything is absolutely all online. In my company,
Okay.
and the meetings are set up. You can book a consultation. It's all virtual.
Okay, nice. And typically, how long are the assessments?
The assessments, depending on the family, we talk to, of course, the parents. We, for the most part, and then we do a learning style assessment with the child and determine the child's interest. Depending on the child's age, that may more come from the parent. The last parent I worked with, child was like 3 years old, unable to really, communicate that. But
Articulate, yeah,
yeah,
what they,
exactly. But there
yeah.
are learning style assessments that we use for the young ones, and the parent is a little bit more involved in that one. But yeah, we will, those can last, I would say, in a perfect world, we might have an hour meeting, but sometimes there's follow up and questions. And that follow-up can be done, via emailing back and forth or, communicating back and forth as we're building out that curriculum.
Nice. Okay. And so you provide, I feel like, an outline of how a family can run a quarter. So 9 weeks, I'm assuming, right? 9 weeks at a time.
Mhm,
So
9 weeks at a time.
you're providing families with subjects of what they are going to cover. Are you going to objectives? What is it that you're providing as far as the
Everything.
curriculum goes?
Yes. So you're spot on with the objectives, and that's how an instructional designer works. We
Everything.
start with the
Okay.
overall goal, and then we pull, in the objectives, the entire lesson though. So we're providing lesson plans from day to day on each subject that the parent needs,
Oh, okay.
but we're also allowing the parent to open their minds to the subjects that they need and want for their child. And that incorporates their values as well. For example, I'll use what I've done for my child. My daughter is she's a sequential learner, but she's also, a little bit of tactical. So the grocery store was a fantastic place during homeschool for me to teach her math, budgeting, um, life skills. And we started when she was young. I would say simple things like, and this is how we incorporate it into your daily life as well. I would say simple things like, you know, go get a loaf of bread and find, the cheapest. So that would send her to the section that would have her looking at the prices on the shelves, that would have her, critically thinking about which one did we want and which one is the most affordable, and bring that back. Then I might ask questions. How much did this cost? She might have to go back. She's 17 now and completely prepared for adult life because of those experiences. So I know that, in just in our communities, we talk a lot about, oh, schools should teach this, schools should teach that, like investing, or, other credit, right?
Mhm.
Things that we would like the schools to teach that honestly they're never going to teach because they are contracted with those companies that I named. They have contracts. It starts from the county, and the counties are given, priority, but it starts from the county. They're never going to incorporate what we want incorporated. CRT, they're not going
Mhm.
to incorporate that. So families can open up the gates of what they want their child to learn and how they want them to learn it. So she's excellent in math. She's excellent in algebra. I really think it all stemmed from our grocery store lessons from early childhood on
Nice.
up. And
Nice.
that takes the
Nice.
pressure off of me
Okay,
as a parent.
so
Yep,
because because this sounds like a lot of work that you're doing.
it is.
Like,
It is a lot.
that's what I'm hearing. It sounds like a lot of work. What did you used to teach? You say you were a former teacher. What did you used to teach?
Absolutely. I started off in Baltimore City Public Schools. Oh gosh, this was back in the mid 90s. I don't want to date my age, but this was back in the mid 90s.
Mm.
And I have worked
That you were
it.
teaching.
Yeah, I started off as a teacher, and a really great
What?
instructional designer will
You
start off
look
as a
good.
teacher. Yeah, I taught on every level too,
Yes.
from elementary school, middle school. I started in middle school, quickly moved from the middle school environment, then to elementary school and high school. At that time, I really knew that I was best fit to teach adults, and I moved to the college level as a professor. I even worked
Oh,
at
nice.
Prince George Community College. So I've been,
Okay.
from not kindergarten, but I would say from second grade up to adult education. And now I still build curriculums for a global company. I've worked and build curricula all for people all around the world, several different countries: China, Japan, Taiwan, Ghana. So several different countries around the world as well. And you're
Nice.
right, it is a lot of work. It's the long road to do it, but I also pull in a team of instructional designers. I cannot possibly design that myself. I
Yeah, that's
train
what I was
instruction. Yeah,
thinking. I was like, you gotta have a team. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I train instructional designers to contract with me and to provide things the creatively ed way to a family and provide for their individual needs. And then that's another thing, you can get matched with the best instructional designer for your family as well.
Oh, nice. Um, oh, I just had it. What's it going? Oh, how far in advance are you meeting with families to create their instructional plan? How far out are these assessments needing to be in order for them to be prepared for whenever, like what's your turnaround basically?
That's a good question. And I would say, and let's take worst case scenario, someone wants a full year curriculum. I would say the best time to start would be January. I
Okay.
advertise a lot in summer just to kind of pique people's brain to, now is the time to start thinking about the next school year. As a parent, let your children rest for the summer, but you need to get on it about thinking about the school year. But honestly, I would say January for a fall curriculum to start. That would be best. Then we can design
Mm,
and have you ready for the fall by the end of summer, and then begin the second semester starting in January while the fall curriculum is being, is active.
okay, okay. So like a good 6 months then.
Good
So
six
you said
months.
from
Mhm.
January to June. So yeah. Because what you're saying that you provide is pretty extensive. So I knew some time would be needed, definitely. Um,
Absolutely.
so you're attacking it on the individual level because that's how you see it's what's needed. With your two learners, your daughter and your son, you talked about their learning styles being different,
They're different.
right?
They're very different.
There. Yeah. So how did you find your groove with teaching them? Because I know it started with the son first and then the daughter fell in line. But how did you find your groove to be able to figure out what worked for you and your family?
That's I because I learned a lot. Learning styles was my specialty when in my doctoral studies.
Mm.
Learning styles was my specialty. So I
Okay.
know a lot about the learning style behaviors that a child will display. Once I determined what my son's learning style was, and I had started homeschooling him first, I realized he's primarily a kinesthetic learner, but he has aspects of visual. So he's like kinesthetic visual. My daughter is sequential, and with just a tinge of kinesthetic in her. Um, so knowing his behaviors, I know he needs plenty of breaks in between the day, especially at that time. He was young too. His attention span on learning wasn't going to be something consistent. That was something he wasn't getting in elementary school, and that was also causing a problem.
Yeah.
Um, so I would give him the breaks that he needed and then bring it back in. I took the pressure off of having like a regimented schedule as long as the work got done. So sometimes homeschool wouldn't start until noon, and then we'd go to like 7, with intermittent breaks in between. or we would break up subjects on, like let's say Monday to and Wednesday, we do this set of subjects. Tuesday and Thursday, we do this set. That gave him a mental break, you know, and space to be able to, really function on those subjects. Um, then when my daughter came in, she's a sequential learner. Sequential learners are best suited for the school environment because they like things in those standardized curriculums like the assessments, the quizzes. They're the ones that are usually kind of sitting up front in the classroom. They raise their hand. They like processes that are offered in a standard school curriculum. I knew that about her. She's always been that, front row, A plus, raising her hand on it type of student. So when she came in, I had all the workbooks. I knew that I could set her down for some independent study. By that time, she was in middle school. This is more difficult to do when your little ones are in elementary school. And if you got more than one in elementary school. But we also coach and provide consultation through that as well. So with like a package, a parent can get consultation calls and they might call up and say, hey, Dr. Eve, I am trying to, teach like 3 kids, but, it's getting kind of out of control. And then we'll coach them through, how we can do that. It's personalized because we need to know those kids and their behaviors, their learning style. But for me, that's kind of how I worked it. I gave my son intermittent breaks. I would get with my daughter to help her during those breaks. We would separate subjects out by days, and we relaxed our schedule to fit home. Also, some of the topics, like the subject topics, were blended into our daily life. So, like I said, with the grocery store math, and we went grocery shopping often, or some type of shopping often. So math became a major part of that. And as long as those objectives were being hit, it brung a little bit more work on me as the parent. But what we do with Creatively Ed is we take that pressure back off the parent by providing that curriculum for them and those step-by-step instructions on how to do that. But for me, because I was
Right.
the
And were
test
you a part of
bunny,
any
it was
co-ops,
difficult.
or are you a part of? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Can
I
you
was
repeat the
asking, are
question?
you a part of any co-ops?
No, at one point I
Can you hear
was.
me? Oh,
Yeah. At one
okay.
at one point I was a part of a co-op, and they enjoyed that too because of the socialization. Definitely. And we would also recommend, co-ops, homeschool groups to families after researching their area. So we take all of that down in the initial assessment. And when we, okay, we'll find out what activities, what other homeschool groups are happening in your area that you can connect with and join with. At the time that I started homeschool, we were living in Florida and Tampa, and they have a huge homeschool community there. So we did join a co-op for a while. And then, we were all kind of sent inside for COVID. And so we
Mm-hmm.
could not continue with the co-op. We relocated back to Maryland um, before COVID ended. This was before 21. And I have not joined a co-op since then, but I have had my son in different activities that interacted with his homeschool. For example, it's extremely strong in science to the point that I was not able, I didn't have the capacity to keep up with him in science. So I found in Baltimore they have an organization called Bugs for teenagers, for young kids who are heavily into science. And then we would do that. We added that to his curriculum. For my daughter, certain like park visits. She's interested in aquatic, marine biology, things like that. So we got her involved in groups that, fed that need. and that became part of the curriculum.
Nice. Yeah. Are you familiar with Extend Tutorial with Kim Kent? Have you heard of her?
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah. Kim Kent is in the Baltimore area. Are you still in the Baltimore area?
I'm just outside of Baltimore, but it's the closest city to me.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, but Maryland, we just had an expo in Maryland about a month or so ago. And I find that y'all community is real tight knit. Like a lot of your homeschool families are real familiar with other homeschool families or the other organizations. And it was really nice to see, like, oh, beautiful. It's beautiful. So that's why I
Awesome.
asked you about co-ops if you were involved. Nice. Okay, so yeah, I found y'all groove, y'all working it out. How much do you outsource as far as with your teenagers now? How much do you outsource their instruction? Or is it still you facilitating most of it?
No, it's definitely partially outsourced now. I would say my daughter's 17, so for her it's about 50% outsourced, 50% coming from me. And with my son, he's more of, 75% coming from me, 25% outsourced. Um, but there are, aspects that he's 16, so they're back to back. Um, there are aspects that they need now that it's best that I get, them involved in a program or an organization to help them learn that. And then they also get that interaction with other students.
Yes. What kind of program do you have them in or
Well, he had finished the
programs?
bugs program right now, and quite honestly, he's not involved in any particular program. He's about to start driving school, you know,
Oh,
so he's just going to do driving school. I am looking at some different opportunities for him for the fall based on his interest. Oh, let me back it up because this is something that I'm a proud homeschool mom I can boast about. He's an amazing artist, a visual artist with digital animation and drawing. And so I was able to enroll him in a program that was for homeschool students. It was free, and it was at the University of Art in San Francisco.
oh,
So a
nice.
major opportunity. And he passed that class. I noticed that students who actually attend the University of Art in San Francisco are kind of slated for working with Nickelodeon, with Disney, with places that use digital animation a lot. And he's very good in that area. So he did that program as well. Especially like things like I can't provide him enough of from my expertise. I will research and find the best group for him. We also do that for other families as well. Once we get to know that family, that ties into a child's interest. So we'll determine what their interests are and then add in and outsource to say to a parent, your child would really work well with this program. So we offer those suggestions. My daughter, she is at the process of, prepping for SATs. She wants to actually go to college. So we are making that transition from, homeschool to college, which is a big transition. And in that space, I'm
Yeah.
also learning from the homeschool groups that I'm in on what that process is like.
Nice, nice, nice. Yes, community. So you find a lot of resources within the Facebook groups.
Yes.
Nice, nice. Okay. And you're creating her transcript or you have a resource that you use for that?
I'm sorry.
I
What's
said,
the
are you creating her transcript or are you using a resource for transcript development?
Yeah, I will use a resource for transcript development. And some of her high school has also been like an online. So we'll have, some that we can pull in. So for her, yeah, I will definitely use a resource for that transcript.
Nice, nice. What is she into?
She's into right now she doesn't quite know. For a minute she wanted, forensics, but now it's more, maybe it's science. It could be dance. She's a kind of little all over the place. I'm not putting any pressure on that. I know when I went to college, my first year, I went in for a poli sci major. I came out, a journalist major. So it did two totally different things. I'm like, well, just, you'll figure it out. You'll
Yeah.
figure it out. But we are starting to talk to colleges. We just went to a festival in Maryland in Bowie, and met with some colleges there. So we are starting that journey. But yeah, great question. I will definitely use a resource for her transcript.
Nice. I love that you were able to start late and you finished it through, because a lot of homeschool families start early, and then once it gets later, it's like, oh, they ease back into the system, or
Yes,
something of that nature. Because a lot of people shy away from the teenage years. They're a bit intimidating for them.
that's very
So
true.
I'm yeah, yeah. So you found your groove while they were teenagers, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, especially at that
Yeah.
crazy middle school age. But yeah, you're right. And even in the school system as a
Yes.
teacher, you'll notice that parents sort of shy off of high schoolers. And I think high schoolers, you know, um, are a bit neglected in that area. I like to focus a lot on high
Yes,
schoolers.
ma'am.
There's a lot of programs out there in the homeschool community for the little ones, elementary age. And we may, in that respect, just suggest a program based on a family's needs. But for middle school and high school, we're a little bit more hands-on and developing with the family because there's not as many resources out there for them. So that is an area that I tend to focus on a lot. I learned a lot about teaching at that age. I started off in middle school teaching. I was young at
Me
that time
too.
and it was a scary experience, but I've learned a lot over the years. It was a scary experience. We talking about preteens, right? So, but yeah, I've learned a lot about
Yeah, I
their
tell them seventh
behaviors.
grade is no joke.
Seventh grade, right? If you can survive the seventh grade, so that's a
Yes.
very true statement.
Yeah, middle school is like a tricky time. I see kids come in and they're in the sixth grade and they're one way, like all bubbly, and then next year you see them after the summer and they come in the seventh grade and it's like something don't switch in them. Then by the end of seventh grade, they're going into eighth and they a whole literally a whole new child from the child that you saw in the sixth grade. It's like, oh, this is a very transformative time for them, from
Exactly.
sixth to eighth grade. But seventh grade is a tricky grade, tricky grade. And parents have to understand how important it is to talk to your kids at that age,
Yes.
because peer
Yes.
influence becomes very heavy, very heavy. And the choices, between right and wrong or good and bad, or just things that they know, but but my friend likes to do this, or my friend thinks this is cool. It's just really important for them to still know, that their parent is in their corner and that they can go to their parent with anything.
Mhm.
So middle school is always a time where I just tell people to focus in on your kids and make sure you talk to them as much as possible. talk to your
Absolutely.
kid. Talk
Absolutely.
to your kids. 'Cause the middle schools be doing some stuff,
They
y'all.
do. They
They be
absolutely
doing
do.
yes. So, Yeah, but I'm very grateful for what you're providing to homeschool families through your own experience. Your doctor is in education.
Yes, it's actually in e-learning education. So, we can also provide online platforms for families. Um, in terms of their whole curriculum, we can do online as well. Um, but those come with a cost because of the cost of the software. So they're a little bit more expensive, but we can provide an online platform as well. I specialize in e-learning. But said, yeah, my doctorate is in education with a specialization in e-learning.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So thank you for what you created. How do we find Creatively Ed?
You can go to creativelyed.com. That's my website, and you'll learn everything about the company there. I also have blogs that I used to write that you can click on. And it also leads to my course site if you wanted to learn more about the course.
Nice, nice. And before I let you go, what's three things you would tell parents that are approaching their homeschool journey fresh and new? Three things you would give them, as far as words of wisdom goes.
Okay, that's a great question. First thing is relax. Don't treat homeschool like school. A lot of parents take their kids from the school system and then treat the education just like it is in the school system. The only thing that's changed is the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Relax. Comparison is a dangerous playground. So there's no, oh, this child is doing this, so you should be doing this. So let go of the
Yes.
concept of pace. Let go of the concept of pace. They're going to get it. And
Mm,
most importantly, learn what their learning style is and don't just guess at it. Do a learning style assessment. Do a
mm.
learning style assessment, learn what their learning style is. And at least if you don't do anything more, start from there, start from that learning style.
Nice. I think those are all really great. Relax, don't compare, and learn their learning styles. Very, very important, especially the learning style part, because like you said, that's something that they lack in the public school setting, because they don't have the capability of being able to assess each child's learning style
Mhm.
and meeting them there. So they can assess it, but it's like, okay, that one teacher in that
Right.
classroom ain't gonna be able to do nothing about all that. So yes, learning their learning style is very important because a lot of our children are being mislabeled because of them not being able to sit in a classroom setting for seven
Hmm.
hours out the day and sit still. And I know my 10-year-old, my lovely, I just look at her all the time, like, girl, you wouldn't make it. You wouldn't make it because, honey, she got to stand up when we playing a board game. She's not stay sitting
Yes,
down for all too long. But yes, meeting them where they are and no comparing and contrasting families. What your
yes,
child is doing, it does not need to be put up against what your friend's child is doing or what this child on
exactly.
social media is doing or anything of that nature. Yeah, very good advice, Dr. Eve. Thank you for that. I think that's about it for today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything that you're doing to ensure that families are supported. Families, Dr. Eve is here to help you in a major way. She's doing all the brunt work. So look, tap into her and let her do it because this is a passion for her and something she enjoys doing. So let's let her do that. But yes, check out creativelyed.com and see if she has something that will help to, support your foundation that you've already put in place and push y'all in the right direction. So tap into your resources. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it by yourself. There's community, there's resource providers. So definitely tap into them and homeschool your kids.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Miss Ma'am.